Imagine you're 50 years old. Half your life's gone by. Nobody takes you seriously anymore. Every day, you drag yourself to a dead-end desk job you can't stand. Every night, you fall asleep next to a bottle of booze, and every morning you wake up to the bitter smell of alcohol and regret. All you've got are a few sheets of paper, pages no one wants to read, until one day, someone shows up and says, "I want to give you a chance." That's the story of a man who took that one chance and shook the world with it. This is the story of Charles Bukowski. Charles Bukowski's life was closer to a long, slow nightmare than a fairy tale. He was a foul-mouthed drunk, a broke gambler, a failed lover, and a post office clerk who hated everything about his existence. If you were looking for a role model for success, Bukowski would probably be the last person you'd think of. But that's exactly why his story matters, because it came from the dirt, not from the clouds. Bukowski had loved writing since he was young. He spent decades writing poems and stories, but no one wanted to publish a word of it. Editors called his work disgusting, immoral, unpolished. Every rejection letter felt like another piece of his soul dying. To survive, he took a job at the Los Angeles post office, a soul-crushing job for pocket change. By day, he sorted other people's letters. By night, he drowned himself in whiskey and horse bets. He'd drink until he blacked out and wake up on the floor. 30 years went by like that. 30 years of silence, failure, and self-loathing. But then, in 1970, when Bukowski was on the edge of 50, fate finally blinked. A small publisher named John Martin, founder of Black Sparrow Press, read his chaotic, raw stories and saw something real in them. He told Bukowski, "Charles, I'll pay you $100 a month. Just quit your job and write." Bukowski wrote back, "I have two choices. Stay at the post office and go insane, or quit and starve to death. I've decided to starve." And so he quit. 3 weeks later, he banged out his first novel, Post Office. It was about the very hell he had escaped from. In the dedication page, he simply wrote, "To nobody." The book was released, and to everyone's shock, it worked. Readers loved his brutal honesty. From there, everything changed. Bukowski kept writing, and he never stopped. 6 novels, hundreds of poems, thousands of lines soaked in pain and truth. By the time he died, he'd sold over 2 million copies worldwide and left behind 19 unpublished works. His $100 monthly payment had grown into $7,000 a month. But even at the height of fame, Bukowski refused to see himself as a writer. He once said in a letter, "I don't really feel like a writer, more like someone who just happened to walk past one." And when someone asked him about his philosophy in life, he smirked and said, "Don't try." Of course, he didn't mean don't work hard. He meant don't fake it. Don't force yourself to be what you're not. Just be real. Write from the gut. Live from the gut. And somehow, that brutal honesty made him timeless. In an age where poetry barely sells, Bukowski's books became some of the most stolen and most read works in America. Why? Because people see themselves in his words, the pain, the failure, the ugliness of life, and yet a flicker of hope burning beneath it all. Bukowski proved you don't need to be perfect to shine. You just need to be you. Scars, flaws, darkness, and all. He once said, if you're going to burn, burn like a bonfire. And he did. His life was messy, loud, painful. But from those ashes rose one of the most honest voices of the century. So if you're sitting there feeling like life's against you, remember this. Maybe your John Martin is still out there. Maybe your chance is still waiting. It only finds you when you're still alive, when you refuse to give up. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Charles Bukowski a brutal genius? A man who turned filth and failure into art? Or just a broken drunk who got lucky one day? But here's the bigger question. If you were in his shoes, would you have the guts? The guts to quit your safe job, to throw away the comfort of routine, and sit in front of a typewriter with an empty stomach but a heart full of dreams? Can you picture yourself at 50, the world turning its back on you, everyone telling you you're worthless, and still whispering to yourself, I'm not done yet? Think about it. Bukowski came from nothing, from the lowest rung of society. But the one thing that separated him from millions of other failures was simple. He never stopped writing. Even when the world laughed at him, even when he didn't believe in himself, he kept going. He kept bleeding words onto the page. Maybe the world doesn't really need geniuses. Maybe it just needs people who don't quit. People who keep walking through the fire, who rise from their ashes and say, I'm still here. So what does success mean to you? Is it fame, money, recognition? Or is it that quiet moment after 1,000 failures when you stand up again and whisper, damn it, I'm still trying? Maybe there's a little Bukowski inside all of us, that tired, cynical, but painfully honest part of ourselves. We just need the courage to listen to it. So tell me, if you were Bukowski, would you walk away from that post office? Would you risk starving just to live for your dream? Or would you choose to stay safe, comfortable, and quietly fade away like everyone else? The comments are open. Write it down. What do you think? Was Bukowski a bitter drunk or a free man who built meaning out of nothing? I'm waiting to hear your thoughts because maybe your story starts today.